Hello everyone, this is Reverend Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to study paper 104, the growth of the Trinity concept. And that starts on page 1143.1. So let's say a little prayer and get started. It's a very interesting paper. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight to study this wonderful revelation and open our hearts and minds that we might absorb some of this difficult subject. This is kind of difficult for most people to understand. We thank you for the opportunity to study this and maybe somebody be able to relate it to someone else as we grow. We thank you in your Son's name, Jesus. We pray. Amen.
Amen.
There it is. Okay, I'll start. Paper 104, the growth of the Trinity concept. The Trinity concept of revealed religion must not be confused with the triad beliefs of evolutionary religions. The idea of triads arose from many suggestive relationships, chiefly because of the three joints of the finger, because three legs were the fewest which would stabilize a stool, because three support points could keep up a tent. Furthermore, primitive man for a long time could not count beyond three. That's our
Yeah.
that's the basis of our Trinity. What'd you say?
What'd you say, Millie?
What'd you say, Millie?
They know this how?
They know this because this is a revelation. That's how they know it. This is from one of the Melchizedeks, so they were around during this period of time. So that's our evolutionary. You got to realize they're talking about the evolutionary religions, not the revealed part, right? So we're going to talk about the revealed part a little bit later after this section. All right. Oh, I forgot to change it. That's what we just read. I'll do the kitchen. All right. Millie, would you take the next one?
Yes. Aside from certain natural couplets, such as past and present, day and night, hot and cold, male and female, man generally tends to think in triads, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, sunrise, noon, and sunset, father, mother, and child. Three cheers are given a victory. The dead are buried on the third day, and a ghost is placated by three absolutions of water.
So we do everything in threes, right? That's why evolutionary religion came up with this concept. Oops, skipped over. All right.
Sorry.
Rodney. Yeah.
Okay. As a consequence of these natural associations in human experience, the triad made its appearance in religion, and this long before the Paradise Trinity appeared, or even any of their representatives had been revealed to mankind. Later on, the Persians, Hindus, Greeks, Egyptians, Babylonians, gods. But these were still not true trinities. Triad deities all had natural origin in a period of one and another among most of the intelligent peoples of the origin. Sometimes the concept of an evolutionary triad has become mixed with that of a revealed trinity. In these instances, it is often impossible to distinguish one from the other.
Okay, so as time went on and the Paradise Trinities were revealed to mankind, they were many times confused with these triads that human beings had created, right? Because it was so close. All right. All right. Ready?
One, Urantian Trinity concepts. The first Urantian revelation leading to the comprehension of Paradise Trinity was made by the staff of Prince Caligastia about 1.5 million years ago. This earliest Trinity concept was lost to the world in the unsettled times following the planetary rebellion.
So, when Caligastia came with the Caligastia 100 to the planet, in the first in Dalmatia, they taught the people that were there about the Paradise Trinity, but because of the rebellion, all that they taught them was lost over a period of time. Right? The second presentation of the Trinity was made by Adam and Eve in the first and second gardens. These teachings had not been wholly obliterated even in the times of Maccabean Melchizedek, about 35,000 years later. For the Trinity concept of the Sethites persisted in both Mesopotamia and Egypt, but more especially in India, where it was long perpetuated in Igni, the Vedic three-headed fire god. Okay, so the second presentation of the Trinity was Adam and Eve, and then later on Maccabean Melchizedek taught all the people that he was teaching on down to the Sethites about the Trinity, and then it went on and on. And the Vedic concept came from these teachings in India.
The third presentation of the Trinity was made by Maccabean Melchizedek, and this doctrine was symbolized by the 3 concentric circles which the sage of Salem wore on his breastplate. But Maccabean found it very difficult to teach the Palestine veterans about the universal Father, the eternal Son, and the infinite Spirit. Most of his disciples thought that the Trinity consisted of the 3 most highs of Melchizedek. A few conceived of the Trinity as the system sovereign, constellation Father, and the local universe created deity. Still fewer even remotely grasped the idea of the Paradise Association of the Father, Son, and Spirit.
So the amount of information these people could comprehend, that's what they would remember, right? And so there were several concepts that were floating around during that Maccabean's time. And he tried to straighten them up the best he could, but we're talking about very unlearned men at that time, right? Rodney.
The third presentation, activities of the same missionaries, the Melchizedek teachers of the Trinity.
We just read that one, Rodney. Go to the next one.
Activities that
Yeah, is that what he was reading?
Yeah, that was your
Oh,
name.
I thought Go ahead, Rodney. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, your picture is frozen, also.
That is right.
Through the activities.
Yeah, of the same missionaries, the Melchizedek teachings of the Northern Africa. It is often difficult to distinguish between the triads and the trinities in the later Handite and the post-Melchizedek ages, with both concepts, to a certain extent,
Coalesced. Coalesced. Okay, so they came together, right? All right. So these Salem missionaries' teachings eventually went out through all Eurasia. You know what Eurasia is, right? Europe and Asia together, right? And Northern Africa. But this is where the triads and the trinities started intermingling so much it was hard to tell them apart, right?
Among the Hindus, the Trinitarian concept took root as being, intelligence, and joy. A later Indian conception was Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu. While the earlier Trinity portrayals were brought to India by the Sephtite priests, the later ideas of a Trinity were imported by the Salem missionaries and were developed by the native intellects of India through a compounding of these doctrines with the evolutionary triad conceptions.
So as they intermingled more and more, they couldn't really distinguish them from the original teachings in here. The Buddhist faith developed two doctrines of the Trinitarian nature. The earlier was teacher, law, and brotherhood. That was the presentation made by Gautama Siddhartha. And the later idea developing among the northern branch of the followers of Buddha embraced Supreme Lord, Holy Spirit, and an incarnate Savior. They're not talking about Jesus there. Really?
What was your last comment about Jesus?
As the Savior they're talking about there was not Jesus. In the last sentence of that, the embrace.
Incarnate Savior.
Right. They're not talking.
Who is he referring to?
They were talking about a Savior yet to come. Okay.
And these ideas of the Hindus and Buddhists were real Trinitarian postulates. That is, the idea of a threefold manifestation of a monotheistic God. A true Trinity conception is not just a grouping together of three separate gods.
Okay.
The Hebrews knew about the Trinity from the Canaanite traditions of the days of Melchizedek. But their monotheistic zeal for the one God, Yahweh, so eclipsed all such teaching that by the time of Jesus' appearance, the
Elohim doctrine.
Had been
Eradicated.
I know, there's something wrong with your speaker.
The Hebrew mind not install the
Trinitarian concept.
monotheistic belief in the one Lord,
The God of Israel. Okay, so the Hebrews already had a problem. They were trying to replace all these different gods with one God. Okay, so the Trinitarian concept they kind of put aside for this concept of Yahweh, or as they knew him as Elohim. And it was pretty much that way down to through the time of Jesus. Okay, so the teachings of Melchizedek about the Trinity were kind of put on a back burner because of that. They just wanted everybody to worship one God, and this was a really difficult thing for them to do. Right?
Followers of the Islamic faith likewise failed to grasp the idea of the Trinity. It is always difficult for an emerging monotheistic to tolerate Trinitarianism when confronted by polytheism. The Trinity idea takes best hold of those religions which have a firm monotheistic tradition coupled with doctrinal elasticity. The great monotheists, Hebrews and Mohammedans, found it difficult to distinguish between worshiping three gods, polytheism and Trinitarianism, the worship of one deity existing in a triune manifestation of divinity and personality.
So it was hard for them to conceive of these three deities in one. Right? Jesus taught his apostles. Huh?
What did you say?
I was just making a comment, I can understand.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Definitely me too.
All right. Jesus taught his apostles the truth regarding the persons of the Paradise Trinity, but they thought he spoke figuratively and symbolically. Having been nurtured in Hebraic monotheism, they found it difficult to entertain any belief that seemed to conflict with their dominating concept of Yahweh. And the early Christians inherited the Hebraic prejudice against the Trinity concept.
So that has to do with them not adapting to
The possibility of
the evolutionary process.
Right,
The
right.
ascension plan.
Right.
Where you're always constantly going to change and you understand things.
All right. Really? Really?
Your mic is
The first Trinity of Christianity was proclaimed at Antioch and consisted of God, His Word, and His wisdom. Paul knew of the Paradise Trinity of Father, Son, and Spirit, but he seldom preached about it, and made mention thereof in only a few of his letters to the newly forming churches. Even then, as did his fellow apostles, Paul confused Jesus, the Creator Son of the local universe, with the second person of deity, the eternal Son of Paradise.
Okay, so Paul thought the second person of the Trinity was actually Jesus.
and that's what everybody raised as Catholics.
And yeah, that's the way everybody until the coming of the Urantia book pretty much thought that Jesus was the second person of deity. And he's not. He's the Son. He's one of the creator sons of the second person of deity. All right? And that's a hard thing to grasp the first time you hear that too. You know? Rodney.
The Christian concept of the Trinity began recognition near the close of the first century after Christ was comprised of the universal Father, the Creator Son of another man, of another universe, and creative consort of the Creator Son.
Okay, so they thought the Trinity basically was God the Father, the Creator Son, Michael or Jesus of Nazareth, and the divine minister of Salvington, which is our creative Mother Spirit, right? And that's the Mother Spirit of the local universe. That's why they call it the consort of the Creator Son. Okay.
I've always had a hard time with the creative consort. That was just.
Well, the reason they call it the consort is it was the Son and the Mother Spirit together, which created and instigate this local universe. So she was co-creator and partner on everything having to do with the creation of this local universe and all the beings in it.
I just thought it would have been co and the creator rather than
Yeah.
console or creator son. You know, it just seems,
Yeah, you could
it
use
seems like
partner there or something.
some of the word would describe it more.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Yeah, he does.
Not since the times of Jesus has the factual identity of the paradise Trinity been known on grant yet, except by a few individuals to whom it was especially revealed, until its presentation in these revelatory disclosures. But though the Christian concept of the Trinity erred in fact, it was practically true with respect to spiritual relationships. Only in its philosophic implications and cosmological consequences did this concept suffer embarrassment. It has been difficult for many who are cosmic-minded to believe that the second person of deity, the second member of an infinite Trinity, once dwelt on Ranchen. And while in spirit this is true, in actuality is not a fact. The micro-creators fully embody the divinity of the eternal Son. They are not the absolute personality.
And that goes for the local universe created Mother Spirit also. She's the embodiment of the infinite spirit. So in reality, even though their concept was wrong, the line of command of the universe really was correct, because you have the universal Father, the infinite Son, or the second source of deity, who created all the Creator Son. So there's a direct line of the Creator Son from the eternal Son. And then we have the infinite Spirit who created all the local universe Mother Spirits with the Creator Son. So it really is a straight line of divinity from them, even though their ideas was incorrect.
But I think, Kevin brought up, that Jesus was the Son of God.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe that we were worshiping Jesus when Jesus in a way that wasn't totally true, because he wasn't the eternal Son. And
No.
that's the way he was taught to us, that he was the
Yeah.
eternal Son.
Well, and it even makes it more
well, it's
confusing.
still, oh,
What did you say?
I'm sorry, what did you say about him? There's a delay in your,
Yeah.
in your speech.
Well, there's also,
wait,
I think the last helps clarify
What did you say, Billy?
what's confusing of it, us all.
that's weird, it's still talking.
I have no idea what they just said. The other thing I wanted to mention here is Jesus actually did not clear it up completely either, because he taught that if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. And if you've seen me, you've seen the Son. And it's true, because he is the direct descendancy from the Father and the Son. So if you have seen Jesus, you have seen the Son.
Yeah, but there's 699 others,
That's right.
plus the other 300 that haven't.
Yeah, 699,000 plus 600, that's right. All right. Now I'm totally confused who's up.
What I was trying to say to clear it up in the last sentence is a difference between the divinity and the personality.
Right,
You see the divinity of God in Jesus, but not the personality.
Right.
that's right, that's correct. All right. Am I up next here?
Yes, I just read it.
Okay. Trinity, unity, and deity plurality. Monotheism arose as a philosophic protest against the inconsistency of polytheism. It developed first through pantheon organizations with the departmentalization of supernatural activities, then through the theistic exaltation of one God above many, and finally through the exclusion of all but the one God of final value. So basically, monotheism came into existence in a protest against polytheism, or multiple gods, right? And it developed through what they call pantheon organizations. In other words, these organizations that had multiple gods, like the Greeks had Apollo and all the other Greek gods, right? And then finally, through the exaltation of one God over the many, and as a final value of God, that's what the early Christians had trouble teaching, was the concept of the monotheistic one concept of one God, because they were in competition with the Romans, who had many gods, right? Actually, the Romans believed that their leader was a god, right? So it's kind of hard to overcome, especially when the leader himself many times thought he was, right? So all the Caesars had a problem with it, basically. All right, when you take away the God status of the Caesar, it makes Caesar less powerful, and it has a tendency for people not to worship them any longer, and that was the problem with the Caesars. Okay, well, let's try writing.
Probably just has a bad connection.
Can you hear us, Rodney?
Well, I can hear you.
Try to read this one, Rodney. You've had some.
Okay.
You keep dropping out on us.
Trinitarianism those have a spiritual protest against the impossibility of conceiving the remnants of a de-anthropomorphized planetary deity of unrelated universe significance. Given a sufficient time, philosophy tends to extract personal qualities from the deity concept of pure monotheism, thus reducing this idea of an unrelated God to the status of a pantheistic absolute. It has always been difficult to understand the personal nature of a God who has no personal relationships and equality with other inordinate personal beings. Personality and deity demands that such deity exists in relation to other and equal personal deity.
Okay, so the Trinitarianism, okay, basically came into being. They call it an experiential protest, through experience, against the impossibility of conceiving of a oneness of a localized, solitary deity in an unrelated universe of significance. And that basically what they're saying is a solitary deity that encompasses the entire universe, right?
It's too big to start that whole paper one.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's difficult to understand. It's going to become a lot more clear when we get to the next section. Okay. Let's move on. Diane, take the next one.
Through the recognition of the Trinity concept, the mind of man can hope to grasp something of the interrelationship of love and law in the time-space creations. Through spiritual faith, man gains insight into the love of God, but soon discovers that the spiritual faith has no influence on the ordained laws of the material universe. Irrespective of the firmness of man's belief in God as his paradise Father, expanding cosmic horizons demand that he also give recognition to the reality of paradise deity as universal law, that he recognize the Trinity sovereignty extending outward from paradise and overshadowing even the evolving local universes of the Creator sons and Creator daughters of the three eternal persons, whose deity union is the fact and reality and eternal indivisibility of the Paradise Trinity.
Okay, so the problem is this: as we expand our thoughts and we start to recognize the Trinity or learn about the Trinity, we discover that it's not just our faith that has to kick in, it's our understanding of the involvement in the large material universe or the cosmos, right? And irrespective of how we think about God as our Father and the love relationship we have with God the Father and the Adjuster, it also makes us think about how this paradise deity, or how God the Father is involved in all the rest of the universe, including paradise, the central isle of paradise, and all the local universe out from that, including the outer space levels. So you have to include that recognition of the Trinity that is involved in everything, material, spiritual, mindful, gravity, everything involved in the cosmos itself. So this extends all the way down to the local universe involving the creator sons, the creative daughters, and their local universes that they create. We still have to deal with the concept of a universal Father, an eternal Son, and an infinite Spirit being necessary as a Trinity for all that stuff to take place. Okay? So without the Trinity, there would be no universe, basically. Without God the Father, the first source and center which pervades everything, there definitely would be no universe. Okay? So we have to come up to a grasp of the deity relationship of God the Father, the infinite Spirit, and God the Son, one way or another. Because it's involved in understanding the whole universe. And thus, this self-same paradise Trinity is a real entity, not a personality. That's real important. We're going to come back to that. But nonetheless, a true and absolute reality, not a personality, but nonetheless compatible with coexistent personalities. The personalities of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. The Trinity is a supersummative deity. Reality eventuating out of the conjoining of three paradise deities. The qualities, characteristics, and functions of the Trinity are not the sum of the attributes of the three paradise deities. Trinity functions are something unique, original, and not wholly predictable from an analysis of the attributes of the Father, Son, and Spirit. Okay, it's very important for us to understand that the Trinity is not a personality within itself. The personalities are God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit, right? But the Trinity makes the compatibility of these three deities come together, and that's why they call this a supersummative deity. When you have three unimaginable powers like the Father, the Son, and the Spirit, then coming together in realization creates a supersummative deity without personality, and what comes into existence is paradise, right? And that makes the paradise deities. Without the three, you would not have paradise. It's the coming together of these three that makes up all the universe. Okay? Included in that are the absolutes of the Father, which we're going to study in a few minutes. Okay? But it goes on to tell us that the Trinity are not just the simple sum of the three of the paradise deities. When they come together, what happens is something totally different and totally unique from the standpoint of the deities themselves. By coming together, something wholly new and not predictable is created. So no matter how you try to figure it out, it's just not a predictable function, the paradise deities. Right? And I may have confused it more. I hope I made it more simple. All right, this is going to get an example. Billy,
For example, the Master, when on earth, admonished his followers that justice is never a personal act. It is always a group function. Neither do the gods as persons administer justice, but they perform this very function as a collected whole, as the Paradise Trinity.
Okay, so when you think about the functions of the Paradise Trinity, these functions they do are not of a personal nature. Does that make sense? When they create a function, it's the addition of all cosmic values, everything in the universe comes together and creates a function that is not a personal act. Make sense? What would be a great example of that? A great example of that would be paradise itself, right? When the second source and center, the infinite Son, came together to create the infinite Spirit with the Father, when those two come together, what happened? Paradise was created at the same time. So from the realization of the infinite Spirit, or the creation of the infinite Spirit, if you want to call it that, paradise just appeared as an afterthought to that. It was the result of God the Father and the Word, which is the second source and center, which creates an action. What's the action? That's the infinite Spirit. And what action was created? Paradise was made. So you have God the Father, the Word, and paradise. Let me show you examples of that. Let me see if I can get this thing. Well, we're going to go over that in a minute. I'll show you that slide in a minute. All right. Rodney.
The conceptual grasp of the Trinity association of Father, Son, and Spirit prepares the human mind for the further presentation of certain other threefold relationships. Theological reason may be fully satisfied by the concept of the Paradise Trinity, but philosophical and cosmological reason demand the recognition of the triune associations of the first source and center, those trinities in which the infinite functions in various non-father capacities of universal manifestation, the relationships of the God of force, energy, power, causation, reaction, potentiality, actuality, gravity, tension, pattern, principle, and unity.
Okay, something we need to clear up here. The triunities, all of the triunities, the seven that they tell us about, have God the Father as the first person for all those relationships, all the seven triunities. The other 8 triunities they don't tell us about, but we can assume that's the case with those two. So for it to be a triunity, it has to have God the Father as the first person in all of them. Okay? The reason they're called triunities and not trinities is because they're two separate entities. Triunities is the bringing together of other relationships, not always including the Son and the Spirit. Okay, and we're going to see that in a little bit when we study these. We also have something called a triodity, okay, to confuse it even more. And there's only 2 triodities they tell us about. But the triodities are triune relationships which do not include God the Father. Okay? So there's a difference between a triunity and a triodity. A triunity involves God the Father, a triodity does not. okay? And we're going to hit those on the very last of this paper, okay? So, but what they're talking about in this paragraph I want to bring up is because of these triunities, we see God the Father in a capacity which is not just the deity of the universe. It also involves energy, power, causation, reaction, potentiality, actuality, gravity, tension, pattern, principle, and unity. So all these other things which are not directly manifestations of God the Father, He's still involved in. All these are, He's still necessary for all these things to take place. So what are we saying? For gravity to work, we know that paradise is the source of gravity, right? But paradise is not possible without God the Father. So gravity is not possible without God the Father. Okay? So, and we're going to see these relationships a little bit better in a minute here. Okay? Trinity and triunities. I think you're up here.
3.
You are saying this is not possible without God the Father.
Right.
Are we dealing the eternal Father?
Yes, yes. We're dealing with the eternal Father. And when we hit the absolutes in a few minutes here, Millie, you're going to see where not all of the absolutes functions are qualified or have involved deity in them. Okay, and that's why they're called qualified. If something is qualified, then a deity is involved in making it happen. The unqualified, that which is not necessary to have deity involved, which is a function, that is considered an unqualified. And for that you need the unqualified absolute, which spans everything. And then what makes it even more confusion, we have the universal absolute, which involves both deity and non-deity functions. Okay? So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Thank you. All right.
3. Trinities and triunities. While mankind has sometimes grasped at an understanding of the Trinity of the three persons of deity, consistency demands that the human intellect perceive that there are certain relationships between all 7 absolutes. But all that which is true of the Paradise Trinity is not necessarily true of a triunity, for a triunity is something other than a trinity. In certain functional aspects, a triunity may be analogous to a trinity, but it is never homologous in nature with a trinity. What does homologous mean?
In other words, it may be like a trinity, but it's not exactly that. It's never just exactly like a trinity. A trinity is unique in itself. There's only one trinity, and that is God the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit. The triunities, no matter what they're doing or what they try to do, will never be exactly like a trinity. And that's what they're talking about, homologous with the nature of a trinity. It's different. Right?
I just think it's important to remember that this is all about God, and God is not simple to understand.
No, it's not.
It's very complex.
And just what we're coming up to right in just a second, just the absolutes is a mind-blowing concept within itself. Matter of fact, the next slide is the absolutes I stuck in here. And the reason I stuck it in here is because all reality is involved in these 7 absolutes. This is what, you see this ultimate integration of reality, currently split in 7 absolutes of infinity. Everything we know as part of the cosmos, the universe, spirit, mind, gravity, everything is involved one way or another in these 7 absolutes. And what are the 7 absolutes? The universal Father. Notice this thought there. This is the original absolute. Before all else happens, the thought has to be there, and that's God the Father. The second absolute, the original Son, he's got expression there. It's also known as Word. Okay? The Father and Son, when they come together, they make an expression together. In other words, the coming together and the Father and the Son creates an expression which is called the Word. That's why Christ, or Jesus, is also called the Word. He's the extension of the original Son, right? When these two things come together, the Word is said and then an action happens, right? That's the third point, the conjoint actor, or the third source and center, right? That's the third original absolute. So we have the thought, the expression, and the action, right? When you put all three of those together, what comes into being is a manifestation, right, of what? The nuclear isle of paradise. And that is the fourth of the absolutes. There are 7 of the absolutes, right? So the thought, the original thought of the Father makes an expression which becomes the Word of the Son. The thought and expression of the Son brings into action the third source and center, the infinite Spirit. All three of these together, mostly the original Son and conjoint actor, causes the manifestation to appear of a nuclear isle of paradise, all matter. Okay? So because of these three things, all matter appears at one time. And that comes from the isle of paradise. And all the universe, all the matter and all the universe comes from this original source. Okay? If you want to talk about a big bang, this would be a big bang. Okay? You know how I harp on the Big Bang is incorrect. This would be a Big Bang, in essence, right? Because all material comes from that. Then the next thing that happens is we have 3 other absolutes. The qualified absolute, which is deity motivated, okay? Anything to do with the qualified absolute is a deity absolute. And we're going to see a slide that explains this real good in a few minutes. And then we have the unqualified absolute. With the unqualified absolute, we have undeified absolute. Okay, these are things that are not deity related. And the third, the universal absolute, they call it an associative or resolving absolute. This is what will happen in the future. That's why the universal absolute has to do with the outer space levels. Everything that's projected to ever happen is in the universal absolute. Does that make it a little more clear for the 7 absolutes?
If you could only tell us every day, that would be great.
Yeah, because it's hard to remember. Yeah. All right. Since I made myself hoarse, Millie, would you take the next one?
That's what the chart is so nice to look at.
Yeah.
To refresh your mind.
Billy?
You need to unmute your.
Where are we?
I know you
We're on the
doing it.
second paragraph of the third section.
Mortal man?
Yes.
Mortal man is passing through a great age of expanding horizons and enlarging concepts under ownership, and his cosmic philosophy must accelerate with evolution to keep pace with the expansion of the intellectual arena of human thought. As the cosmic consciousness of mortal man expands, he perceives the interrelatedness of all that he finds in his material science, intellectual philosophy, and spiritual insight. Still, with all this belief in the unity of the cosmos, man perceives the diversity of all existence. In spite of all concepts concerning the immutability of deity, man perceives that he lives in a universe of constant change and exponential growth. Regardless of the realization of the survival of spiritual values, man has ever to recognize the mathematics of pre-mathematics of force, energy, and power.
Okay, so part of the job of this revelation is for us to accelerate our evolution and expand our thought, our human thought, and our intellect in the consciousness of the cosmic interrelationship of all things. And that's what this is all about. This is to teach us, this revelation is to teach us how deity, non-deity, and all these other things are interrelated in the cosmos, and how they act upon material things in the cosmic universe. And that's where mathematics and pre-mathematics, force, energy, and power comes in. Okay? So by understanding this book, it makes our understanding of energy, power, force, things like that, and the universe, how it comes into existence, and how it is manipulated. Okay? That's what this is all about. You know, you can't, no matter how you try to do it, discount the importance of this revelation. You really can't. And how it affects our lives. Okay, Rodney.
In some manner, the eternal, of infinity must be reckoned with the time growth of the evolving universes and with the incompleteness of the experiential inhabitants thereof. In some way, the conception of total infinite and qualified, but the more intellect and the righteous soul can grasp this concept of final value and spiritualizing significance.
Okay. What they're telling us is we have to come to grips with these concepts, right? And we have to come to grip with, we have to reconcile how deity, non-deity, all these other things are involved in our experiential growth within our own planet. Okay, so as we grow with experience, we have to grow in intellect just as much. And that's where we've been lagging behind. Okay?
Yes.
So the revelation helps us bring up our concepts so that we have something to build upon for the future, so that we don't get stagnant and we don't get one-mindedness about one little thing, right? No matter what it is, you know, including the concept of God. All right?
While reason demands a monotheistic unity of cosmic reality, finite experience requires the postulate of plural absolutes and of their coordination in cosmic relationships. Without co-coordinate existences, there is no possibility for the appearance of diversity of absolute relationships, no chance for the operation of differentials, variables, modifiers, attenuators, qualifiers, or diminishers.
Okay, so we have to expand this monotheistic concept of unity in cosmic reality, okay? That's why they talk about the plural absolutes. We have to start to understand how the plural absolutes are involved with God the Father, which makes this stuff come into existence, for us to understand the whole picture, right? We got two choices. We can learn
Roger, this reminds me of when I was going to school in the Air Force to learn radar technology.
Uh-huh.
Well, like a circuit board.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's similar.
It's very similar, right? The thing of it is, we really have two choices in life. We can expand our understanding in this world, or we can not do it, and when we get to the mansion worlds, guess what our first job will be? This stuff right here, right?
Exactly.
So we're going to have to learn it. We might as well learn it in this existence. And it will benefit us in this existence. All right?
some basis for a percentage of the intellect, that understands the spiritual, intellect.
Yeah.
That allows others to progress faster also.
Yes.
There's a concept or something like that.
Yes.
In these papers, total reality infinity has been presented as it exists in 7 absolutes. 1, the universal Father. 2, the eternal Son. 3, the infinite Spirit. 4, the Isle of Paradise. 5, the deity absolute. 6, the universal absolute. And 7, the unqualified absolute.
And that is the 7 absolutes.
And the unqualified absolute is everything that is not material, that's out there waiting to be.
We're gonna go over that, dear.
Oh, okay.
Hold that thought,
Okay.
because when we go over it, we have a slide that's 3 slides away
Okay.
that explains it very well, okay? And we're gonna go all the way through that, and if we get through that tonight, and may break somewhere closely after that, because it's a hard concept, and I want everybody to think about it. Okay, so let's go one more slide. Remember this slide?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay, remember when we had 11 weeks of, before we started the full work back in 2011? Remember that? That's what this slide is. This is the top of that chart, cut up and put into an organized fashion so that everything is right here. On this slide, we have the Trinity up in the corner. You see that? God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. Right here, it says destiny. See that? This is the other 3 of the absolutes, the qualified, unqualified, and the universal. Where's the 4th one? The Isle of Paradise, right there. You see that? That's all 7 of the absolutes. The rest of these are levels of trinities and triunities. These really, on this level, it should be called triunities, not trinities. The trinities of trinities. I think it would be better to call these triunities. The other, when the ultimate Trinity, basically, as they're stating here, is this is the future and the outer space levels. This involves the supreme, the 7 supreme creators, the 7 master spirits, and architects of the master universe is basically the guys that are working in the outer space levels. Okay, so if you see these triangles upside down on each other, this is the 7 triunities, and the ones underneath are the 8 triunities that are unknown to us. They don't tell us about it. Okay, but that's all the triunities. And underneath that, in this corner, is the triodities. Remember, I told you about two things that are not father-based. That's the 2 triodities. So basically,
The 2 they told us about.
they told us about. That's correct. So this chart involves all the qualified, unqualified, and the universal deities of all integrated reality. So this chart is reality in essence. And it all comes back to what? The great I am at the very top. Remember when it has in the Bible, when we're supposedly, it's supposed to be God talking, and he says, "Who are you?" And he says, "I am that I am." This is where this comes from. There is nothing in all the universe to relate to God the Father. He's always the first source and center. The closest thing that comes to the I am would be what? The Eternal Son. And the closest thing that comes to the Eternal Son would be what?
Infinite Spirit.
The Infinite Spirit. And together they make the one and only Trinity. Right? That's why this slide is so important. You could study this your whole life, really. It comes right down to it. see if I can get my slide back. Okay, the next slide is the 7 absolutes again, right? All reality is involved in these 7 absolutes. All reality. Okay, the next slide is the one I was talking about I'd like to get through tonight. I taught you this back in 2011. Back in 2011, I had a really hard time understanding this, okay? Imagine trying to teach this when I barely had the concept in my head myself, right? Now I'm a little bit better, but I still don't know everything, right? But let's just go through this real quick. These are the 3 absolutes, let me back up here, that makes this thing a little more confusing. These are these 3 absolutes down here. That's what this chart is about, okay? We know quite a bit about the other 4, right? But these 3 are kind of a mystery to us. It's harder for us to understand them. So let's see if we can go through a little bit of this tonight. The first one, the deity absolute. Why do they call it the qualified absolute? This will help you understand. They call it the qualified absolute because it takes deity to qualify everything in existence eventually. Okay? So you have to have deity involved. Okay? Alright? It says the absolute level had no beginning, is endless, timeless, and contains no space. Never began, never ends. It contains no physical space, it just is. Okay? It's deity at the most basic level. Okay? The absolute transcends time, space, infinity, eternity, and the ultimate. All the way through everything, as far as you can go, and anything possibly that could exist. Okay? Absolute of potentiality. What does that mean? In other words, this is the absolute that creates all potential for all future events, and all future creation, and all future happening, and all future everything. Okay? Alright? It is activator of potentials, the one of the 7 absolutes of infinity. Limitless, timeless, spaceless, boundless, measureless, truly infinite. The qualified absolute. Why is it qualified? Because it qualifies all of the other reality, right? Unifies with unqualified. Unifies with unqualified absolute in the universal absolute. So, the qualified absolute joins with the unqualified absolute for the universal, to create the universal absolute. Okay? Majeston was created by and reaction to the deity absolute. What is Majeston? Everything in the outset, in the 4 outer space levels, is started by Majeston. It's created by Majeston, the architects of the master universe. Okay? It's a member of the triodity of potentiality. Remember that we talked about a non-father related triodity? That's what they're talking about here. It's the triodity of potentiality. What's that? Everything that could potentially happen throughout all eternity. Okay? And it over-controls all material reality. Everything. So, if you wanted a concept that would kind of give you the idea that God was pantheist, that God was in everything, it would be from this right here. Okay? Which God isn't in everything. He controls all reality. He isn't in all reality. Right? There's a difference. Okay, let's move on to the universal absolute. The universal absolute is an absolute of potentiality and everything that's going to happen from here on out. All potentials, right? It's an inevitability. In other words, this had to come into existence from this. There's no way that it couldn't. Okay, because if you have a deity absolute, you have to have a universal absolute, right? And an unqualified absolute. All right, it says the infinite upholder, the I am self-associative. It's part of the original God the Father, the I am of the I am. All right. Limitless, timeless, spaceless, boundless, measureless, truly infinite. Energy proves existence of. In other words, because energy exists, that proves the existence of the universal absolute. It's the alternative opposing processions of space levels, part of gravity technique of the universe. Now, what it does is it basically controls the oppositions of space. And remember, I don't know if y'all remember we had that picture where it looked like an hourglass?
Yeah.
Remember that? This is what it's talking about. It is what controls that hourglass and keeps reality space and non-reality space in two different separate modes. It makes material universe cosmically possible. It keeps everything together. May be activated by the second experiential Trinity, which is in that previous chart. It's the member of the Trinities of Trinities, the member of the triodity of potentiality, also, just like the deity absolute, right? The master physical controllers are reactive to the universal absolute. Okay, so everything that controls the physical aspects of the universe is controlled by this. Okay, and the triunity membership includes the unqualified absolute and the deity absolute, right? One deity, one not. Okay? All right, let's go move on to the unqualified absolute. And I love this first sentence they have in here. Existential things simply are. That's all they say. They just are. You can't explain them, they just come into existence. All right? The unqualified absolute is existential. That's why it's part of the seven absolute. It just is. It makes all seven of them to make up reality. Okay? It's the absolute of potentiality, what's coming in the future. It's devoid of personality. Okay? That's very important. The deity absolute, it's devoid of personality. Yes. It's part of God the Father, right? But it's part of the God the Father that is devoid of personality. It just is. Okay? It's controlled by God the Father, but it just is. Alright, it has infinite capacity, has no limits. It's the I am static reactive. In other words, it just is that it is. I am that I am. There's no way to explain it. Limitless, timeless, spaceless, boundless, measures truly infinite. Repository of static potentials and uncreated universes. So it's where all uncreated universes come from, is the static potential. Right?
Does that include unborn children, unborn life?
Everything. Anything in the future. And creating universes. It's the revealer, regulatory, repository of all that has paradise as source. In other words, all material existence, all gravity, everything that comes from paradise itself comes from this unqualified absolute. It just is. You know, when I was talking about the Isle of Paradise coming to existence at the same time as the infinite spirit, this is part of that function. It just is. It came to existence immediately upon the existence of the infinite spirit.
Because it already existed in the unqualified absolute.
That's exactly right. Okay? It is totality of non-personal, extra divine and undeified reality. It's not deity related. That is deity related. This is not. Okay? It's unpredictable in reactions. It's unrevealed cosmic infinity of the I am, and absolute of infinity. The emergent energy must be liberated from this for things to exist. Okay? Matter subject to cosmic overcontrol of this. It may be activated by second experiential Trinity. That's on that previous chart. You can look at it. It's the member of the triodity of potentiality, just like these two. Okay? And it is what creates the master force organizers and manipulates primordial space forces of the outer space levels. Okay, so this is what manipulates them through the master force organizers, right? And the outer space is the domain of the unqualified absolute. So if you're talking about anything out in space, that the creation of the planets out there, the master force organizers, the architects of the master universe working out there, they're all under control of this, the unqualified absolute. Unpersonal, unqualified absolute. It just is. It's the reaction of God, the action of God, right? Let me see where we want to go to here. I know y'all's minds are spinning probably by now. We want to try to go to the beginning of 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more slides. Is that okay? Huh? All right.
That was a hard one, you said.
Yeah, it was. It's a lot of information. Millie, would you take the next one since I'm forcing?
Where do you want me to start?
The first source and sin.
The first source and center, who is Father to the Eternal Son, is also pattern to the Paradise Isle. He is personality unqualified in the Son, but personality potentialized in the deity absolute. The Father is energy revealed in Paradise alone, and at the same time, energy concealed in the unqualified absolute. The infinite is ever disclosed in the ceaseless acts of the conjoint actor, while he is eternally functioning in compensating but enshrouded activities of the universal absolute. Thus is the Father related to the 6 coordinate absolutes, and thus do all 7 encompass the circle of infinity throughout the endless cycles of eternity.
And that's how the infinite Father is related to all of the 7 absolutes. Right? Pretty heavy duty, isn't it? Is there anything in that paragraph y'all want me to try to make clear, or does that kind of make sense to you? You good on that?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one?
It would seem that triunity of absolute relationships is inevitable. Personality seeks out of personality association and absolute, as well as at other levels. And the association of the 3 paradise personalities realizes the first triunity, the personality union of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. But when these 3 persons, as persons, conjoin for a unified function, they thereby constitute a triunity, a functional unity, not a
Not a trinity.
trinity.
Right.
not a trinity, an organic entity, but nonetheless a triunity, a threefold function, aggregate, anonymity.
Okay.
Actual aggregate
Unanimity.
unanimity.
Yeah. So when the Father, what
Unanimity.
do you say?
He was pronouncing the last word.
Oh, okay. When the Father, Son, and Spirit come together, constitute a function, they turn into a triunity. They're trying to function together. Not a trinity. A trinity is an organic unit in itself. In other words, the joining together of the Trinity is inseparable. But the triunity of the Father, Son, and Spirit are something they're doing together as an action. They become a triune force, right? And that's the difference. One is non-separable, the other can be, right?
Understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
To say you understood?
You understood, is that what you said, Rob?
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
Good. All right. I'm hoping I'm making this clear, not muddying the water, as they say. Right? Okay. Oh, sorry.
The Paradise Trinity is not a triunity, it is not a functional unanimity. Rather, it is an undivided and indivisible deity. The Father, Son, and Spirit as persons can sustain a relationship to the Paradise Trinity, for the Trinity is their undivided deity. The Father, Son, and Spirit sustain no such personal relationship to the first triunity, for that is their functional union as three persons. Only as the Trinity, as undivided deity, do they collectively sustain an external relationship to the triunity of their personal aggregation.
Okay, so when the Father, Son, and Spirit comes together as the Trinity, it is indivisible. They don't ever come apart, right? When they act as the Trinity, they are a separate deity as the Trinity. They can function individually, but they function as the Trinity as a separate deity altogether. Okay? When they act as a triunity, however, they act in relationship to each other, which is not undividable. Okay? So the three personalities of the God the Father, God the Spirit are each individual, but they don't act like a personality together, which they do as the Trinity. Okay? So this is what they're talking about here. Thought of the Father, the expression of the Son, and the action of the conjoint action. I like to call this the Word, because that's the way they say it in the book so often, is the Son is the Word. He's the expression of the thought of the Father, right? And then the thought of the Father, the expression of the Son, turns into action of the conjoint actor, or the third source and center. And together, all three of them, undivided, becomes the Trinity. But they can act individually still, right? As a separate deity. Okay. Thus does the Paradise Trinity stand unique among absolute relationships. There are several existential triunities, but only one existential Trinity. A triunity is not an entity. That's the difference. A Trinity is an entity. It is a function rather than organic. Its members are partners rather than cooperative. The components of the triunities may be entities, but a triunity itself is an association. Okay. So that's what makes it different. It's an association of these absolute things. Millie, take the next one, please?
You want to change the page?
Oh,
So we have it, it's correct.
I'm having difficulty reading the small print in the book.
yeah,
There
is that
is,
what's up there?
um,
Okay.
I'll read that again. There is, however, one point of comparison between Trinity and Triunity. Both eventuate in functions that are something other than the discernible sum of the attributes of the component numbers. But while they are thus comparable from a functional standpoint, they otherwise exhibit no categorical relationship. They are roughly related as the relationship of function to structure, but the function of the triunity association is not the function of the trinity structure or entity.
So what they do is a triunity is totally different than what would happen as the Trinity. Okay? So it's totally different functions. They don't overlap.
The triunities are nonetheless real. They are very real. When there is a total, there is total reality
Functionalized.
functionalized. And through them, does the universal Father exercise a neat and personal control over the master functions of infinity.
So through these triunities, not only the 7, but the other 8, the universal Father controls everything in all existence. It's just that simple, right? It's the master functions of infinity. Now next time I want to start on section 4. Oops. Section 4 is... Yeah, whatever section 4 is.
The 7 triunities.
No, I skipped over it. Yeah, 7 triunities. Okay, that's where we're going to start next time. Whew. Quite a brainful tonight, huh?
It's a lot to learn.
It is. It's a lot to learn. Dear, would you like to close us in prayer tonight?
Father, Mother God, we thank you so much for this opportunity to learn this again and to unveil another level of understanding. Each one of these revealing of the last. And our minds continue to be open and receptive to knowledge and revealed through this wonderful revelation. Thank you for Roger's persistence and consistent teaching of the book. And we're all very grateful. Just thank you for life and thank you for this wonderful opportunity to advance spiritually and intellectually and emotionally and physically as a result of studying this book. And we are very grateful in our hearts and give thanks to you in the name of Jesus Christ. And we celebrate.
And thank you for joining us at home. Please come see us again. We'll finish up this paper on